Hi, everybody. You're listening to Comics and History, episode number 104, part 1, Spotlight on Wonder Woman during the John Byrne years. And welcome to the show. I am your host, Brian J. Rygate, and class is back in session as we conclude this shorter Spotlight series on Princess Diana, aka DC's Wonder Woman. With all the excitement right now about the new Wonder Woman movie, at the time of this recording, there's a pretty big sale on Wonder Woman comics over at Comixology. And by the time you listen to this recording, the sale may be over, or maybe not, given all the buzz that I've heard about how great movie Wonder Woman is and how amazing Gal Gadot has been in the role of Wonder Woman. But in any event, I think I may take advantage of the sale that's going on right now and finally pick up a number of the issues in the runs that were done by Phil Jimenez and Greg Rucka. So you never know. In the future, there could be more Spotlight episodes on Wonder Woman. But right now, we are going to take a look at my fourth favorite era in Wonder Woman's publishing history. At least the fourth favorite era right now, and that is the John Byrne era. John Byrne's run on Wonder Woman corresponds to the years 1995 through 1998. Issue number 101, which marked the beginning of the run, had a cover date of September of 1995. And recording this particular Spotlight episode is going to be an interesting challenge for me, given how contentious John Byrne's run on the Wonder Woman title was. For those of you who listened to my episode in which I spotlighted the William Messner-Loeb's run on Wonder Woman, I made the statement that Mr. Messner-Loeb's run is an undiscovered gem, in that it seems that not a whole lot of people are familiar with the Messner-Loeb's run, or even remember Mr. Messner-Loeb's followed George Perez's run in the early 90s. And I need to backtrack on that statement, because in doing my research for this episode, I went to a lot of message boards and online forums, and what I found was that William Messner-Loeb's fans, in particular fans of the Messner-Loeb's run on Wonder Woman, come out in droves to criticize, and I mean criticize, John Byrne's work on Wonder Woman. A lot of the posts which I saw, a lot of the blog articles which I read, were generally of this structure. When he was on the book, Mr. Messner-Loeb's did a perfect job of presenting concept X, Y, and Z of Wonder Woman. And when Byrne tried it, it didn't work at all, and I didn't like it. Or I would see other comments that stated, John Byrne's run on Wonder Woman was awful for reasons X, Y, and Z, but William Messner-Loeb's did such a better job at it. And not everybody who went online was critical of the Byrne run, but it was enough that I get the sense that I'm in a pretty solid minority of readers who enjoyed John Byrne's run on Wonder Woman. And so it's going to make this recording quite interesting, in that I'll have quite the academic challenge in presenting a very balanced look at key concepts which were introduced by Mr. Byrne. I've already said that I enjoyed the run, so there is some bias there. But at the same time, I do understand a number of the complaints that readers had about Byrne's work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at both the positive and the negative consequences of certain key elements in the Byrne run. In other words, I'm not here to apologize for what Byrne did between 95 and 98, but at the same time, I'm not here to condemn the man. I think that a number of readers certainly have a valid reason to feel that Byrne's execution of certain concepts really did not come out right. But at the same time, I think that a lot of the things which he did came from a place of good intentions. He certainly wasn't out to completely destroy the character, despite what some fans have said about his work on Wonder Woman and his comics work in general. He wasn't out to throw out the proverbial baby with the bath water. And we should also keep in mind that he was under a certain mandate from DC, much like William Messner Loebs was given a mandate by DC when he started writing Wonder Woman with that Wonder Woman special in the early 90s. So I'm thinking that in part one, I'm really going to be focusing on Wonder Woman's supporting cast. I'll be talking about Byrne's general mandate from DC. I'll talk about his art on the book and why I think that his art came off as looking rather different from what fans were used to. It'll probably be in part two where I'm really going to focus on specific key storylines from the Byrne run. There were more than a couple of important story arcs, which I do need to spend some time talking about. So this is certainly going to be a two-parter, folks. And part two will come your way in 7 days. So let's begin. So John Byrne came on to the title in 1995. And his mandate was similar to the one that was handed down to William Messner Loebs. DC wanted Wonder Woman to be a fully integrated character in the DCU. Just backtracking to the immediate post-crisis era, when George Perez revamped Wonder Woman, he downplayed the superhero side of the character, and you really focused on Wonder Woman as an emissary, a diplomat, an agent of peace. And there were certainly a number of issues within Perez's run where Wonder Woman still looked and felt like a superhero, but at the same time, she was really in her own corner of the DCU. She wasn't a part of the Justice League. You weren't seeing other members of the DCU popping up in her title. And she would make appearances here and there in different titles like Action Comics. But Perez really had a tight grasp on the character, and he really wanted her to become a much more prominent character within the DCU. And so he did that by making sure that she wasn't just going to become part of a team. And then when he left, DC wanted Messner Loebs to start playing up the superhero angle. She could still be a diplomat and an emissary, but that wasn't going to be played up to the same degree as during the Perez run. So during Messner Loebs' time, Wonder Woman would join the Justice League Europe, and near the end of Messner Loebs' time on the title, Wonder Woman became a founding member of the post-Zero Hour incarnation of the Justice League America. And Mesner Lopes' run ended with issue 100 with Artemis, who had won a rigged contest and taken the title of Wonder Woman, dying and asking, or rather telling Diana to take back the mantle and the office of Wonder Woman. And Mesner Lopes didn't even get to provide an epilogue where Wonder Woman was back in the costume. That was left to John Byrne. And so when Byrne came in, he was told that the superhero action element of the character really needed to be ramped up. And Byrne in 1995 seemed like one of the best choices to fill this mandate. At this time, Byrne was still seen as being at the top of his game. He was still seen as a very crafty, well-versed veteran writer and artist. Of course, known primarily for his work at Marvel with things like X-Men and Fantastic Four and Sensational She-Hulk. And of course, he was known over at DC for his work on Man of Steel and the first 2 years of the post-crisis Superman books. This was quite a while before Byrne would come to be regarded as an eccentric who really did himself in terms of isolating himself from the rest of the comics community, both from fans and from fellow comics creators. He was still seen as one of the greatest artists in the business, and when it came to drawing very powerful, muscular women in such a way that they still look very feminine and very beautiful, Byrne was the perfect choice to be the principal artist on Wonder Woman. And again, Sensational She-Hulk was a shining example of this. So there was a good degree of enthusiasm when it was announced that Byrne was coming on as the writer and the artist on the title. So then what happened? Why, after 3 years, were there so many people who were happy to see Byrne go? Well, first, looking on the art side of things, I should make it clear right off the top, after having read the Byrne run again recently, the art is certainly not terrible. Byrne's poor Byrne art is still better than a lot of the best work provided by a number of artists these days. But given that Byrne was such a consistent, dynamic artist for so many years, a lot of fans looked at his Wonder Woman work and said, what happened? And I think the answer can be found primarily in the fact that Byrne was taking on triple duty with Wonder Woman. He was the writer, the penciler, and the inker. And you can certainly count me in the camp that feels that John Byrne's best art always comes when he has a separate, dedicated inker. Inkers like Terry Austin just have this way of bringing out the best in Byrne's work. They're certainly not finishing his work. Byrne's, for much of his career, has been respected as someone who provides very tight, detailed pencils. But inkers like Austin are just able to bring something really special out of Byrne's art. And I have to agree with a lot of other fans and podcasters who feel that when Byrne inks over his own pencils, it just doesn't look the same. And this was certainly, in my opinion, on full display during Byrne's run on Wonder Woman. An example of this is in one issue where Superman Prior to his